Will Lucas here, Black Tech Green Money. I'm excited about today's show because this guy is part of one of the funniest collectives on the internet. Jonathan Newton is co-founder and chief creative officer at DreamCon and a member of RDC World, which is all about making the fans laugh. That's what they're about. Their job is to make you laugh and provide entertainment through skits, vlogs, short films, and more. DreamCon, for its part, is a premier entertainment convention founded by RDC World. DreamCon unites enthusiasts globally to celebrate gaming, anime, sports, film, music, and pop culture while fostering inclusivity and a sense of belonging. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely,
excited
man.
to be here, man. I think it's gonna be good, and I love what y'all doing as well. So,
Yeah, yes, and that's why we wanted you here to talk about what you're doing. So I think I want to start here. So in
mm,
high school, friends told you guys, and I've heard it even also like anime is not
mm,
cool. It's cool now, but it was not
mm,
cool. When we were coming
mm,
up. How
mm.
much of DreamCon is about reclaiming that narrative and proving that Black people and Black fans of anime, have a space in geek culture.
Yeah, for sure. I think with DreamCon, it's a cultivation of all the people that either dealt with similar, hard facts back then in high school, middle school, wherever, where it wasn't as mainstream or as open minded to just be into these certain things. Once you get past a certain age, you just know how we be
Yeah,
sometimes. You're
yeah.
like, hey man, you too old to be this, and that. You feel me? And so when you get under those type of social pressures, you tend to keep it to yourself, stay more reserved for those specific things, and really just indulge in those things in your own private space at home. So with DreamCon, it's really cool to see that we were able to use that same energy of things that we dealt with while we was growing up, and really just provide a location, a space for all those people of like-minded individuals to all just kind of show up together and just be open with it when because I think growing up they're thinking like, we gotta keep it to ourselves. Well, now I'm in a space of other people who all dealt the same thing. We're like, wait, hold on, like we don't gotta do that no more.
Yeah, yeah,
And now the world is kind of like acknowledging it. It's impossible to ignore it. So yeah, I think that's really a big part of DreamCon and how it got started. And yeah, it's the core of it.
yeah. And so you've gone from numbers of 800 people in 2018 to
Hmm.
34,000 just this past year. And so
Correct.
when did you realize that you had gone from just a convention to like this was a movement or the culture?
I think, I mean, really honestly, for us, we feel like that was like that way from the very beginning, And but I think once we kind of transitioned to going from Austin, I mean, we was in like the Dallas area and we moved to Austin, and it was like a really large jump in, we went from like 6,000 people to 20.
Wow,
So
wow.
it was like a really big growth, and we really were like, man, like, this is going to stick around for a while, right? So at first, when we had the first year, there was like 800 people. We expected. I just transparently, the first year, we thought we was gonna have 10,000 people. So whenever we had
Yeah,
800, you're like,
yeah,
oh man, I guess it really wasn't,
yeah,
as
yeah.
many people as we thought. But we just kept sticking to it, and it just started growing and growing and growing. And
What made
yeah,
you
I would
stick with
say
it? What
that.
made you stick with it when you thought it was gonna be 10,000 and you get 800? Most
What
people
made
would
it
say,
stick with
that
it?
ain't it. We maybe
Yeah, I
we
would
made a mistake.
say that the thing that made us stick with it was the fact that, on the content side, like, even though in person, we only had 800 people, us as a collective and with our content, our channel, like our videos were going viral, they were hitting. People was in comments telling us like, man, like I remember I was doing this, or hey, I wish I had friends that were into these things. So
Hmm.
like we looking at online, everybody talking about it, and in person, we were thinking like, okay, well maybe it's just simply the fact that, it's the first year. Like people, even myself, it's like if I see something popping up, I might not go the first year. I need to see how it is looking first. Let me see what the feedback is before I, spend my money on a flight or
Yeah.
hotel. You feel me? So I think it was just the the in person one showed us that there is a space for it, But online, what we were doing, we were growing to such an alarming rate that we knew that the people were out there, and I think it was just a matter of time. Was kind of our
Yeah.
thought process.
You know, there are other conventions and conferences that touch on these
Mm,
this subject matter, and and I wonder like what your unique value proposition was. Like there was a quote
mm,
I found from you guys where you said originally we were planning on visiting anime comic conventions as guests to meet and
mhm,
interact with our fans in a fun setting. However, many of these conventions, except for a small few, were either
mhm,
ignoring us or turning us away and saying we wouldn't fit in. So we decided from there instead to make excuses or
mhm.
instead of making excuses or complaints, we would create our own bigger, better convention. What was it
Correct.
about those other conventions that they were not seeing?
So I mean, before we even knew about the convention space, before we had ever even been talent, right? It was more about the diversity, the lack of diversity that they had in their rosters. I think it was just like, okay, we know obviously from popular shows like Dragon Ball Z or Yu-Gi-Oh, all the classic shows that we grew up seeing on TV, that they're gonna bring these certain voice actors and certain talent levels there naturally. But I think that because there was a lack of acknowledgement that our community as well were into these things that reflected within their rosters or just across the board, we just felt like, man, like even us, we had like I think at the time we had like 1 million subscribers,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
I got the million off of just the content that Mark was creating to build this fan base around these certain things like anime and gaming and all these different things. So for us, we were just definitely like, well, we definitely feel like we're big enough to be able to show up in these spaces and and be talent in our way. Like, yeah, we not in the shows, but we are actually driving the culture towards the same niche area as well. And I think that it's just something that it was an earlier time. I think that maybe they just I'm not gonna just blame anyone specifically, right? But I think that it was definitely something that we were like, well, we're not about to fight for we're not gonna fight for a spot. We're gonna just
Yeah.
make our own.
Yeah.
It was
When you,
just too much, yeah.
for sure, for sure. Like
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of these plannings, you're planning DreamCon or more
Mhm,
RDC projects.
mhm,
Um, how do you know whether you're making a decision as a fan, as an executive, or as like
mhm.
an architect of the culture? Like, how do you ensure that you're not just being narrow-minded in one of those respects?
Yeah, I mean, I think that luckily we are very socially aware of just everything, right? Because we're in a group, because we have the opportunity to speak to each other and have like 7 different perspectives. From that level as a group, we use a lot of those things within our content, and I think that's why we've been able to stay around so long, because we're able to adapt to what's going on around the world. We also make content around so many different avenues and so many different perspectives. Like, we're not just making content for anime, we're doing gaming, black culture, sports, music. We have so many different things where we are having viral videos in each area, to where it's like, hey, look, we staying around. You feel me? Like, whatever's going on, we doing that. And I think that using that energy in a business perspective is like, hey, as a business, what can we do to make sure not only that this is something that can have longevity, and stay diverse as well as like just staying around, but also acknowledging the fact that we are accustomed to creating projects, working with lots of different people. So when you scale it to DreamCon, we have an amazing team of individuals who are a part of us on the outside. They're not in the content room. Sometimes when you're working on content and everybody lives in one house, you can get very close-minded on that. But we brought in like other dreamers who had similar backstories to us, but they work in professional areas and different backgrounds, whether it's in accounting, finance, all this different stuff, that keeps us open minded. And I think that's kind of where the success is led, because we're not only just going off of our own individual thought process. We have like a solid team of people who, I will say transparently, when we first started, a lot of people came on just voluntarily. It wasn't like, hey, you got to pay me to. It was people reaching out to us wanting to be a part of this, because they acknowledged what we had, and hey, look, uh, I got a full time job. I just graduated college. I just got my master's degree, but like, I see what y'all got going on. I want
Yeah.
in. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't. You know, I just want in. Like where can I fit
I
in?
saw the
And so
motion.
then, yeah, exactly. So then you see that, and you're like, okay, well, cool, you can fit in. What you do? Like, well, I just got, I'm a CPA. It's all bet. Yeah, like I don't know nothing about no finances. Let's learn from this person who can teach us. I think the
Yeah.
best thing we can have is having smart people around us who are helping us learn as well along the way, and not having too much ego.
I think a lot of creatives just assume bigger is always better, and then
Hmm.
obviously, getting bigger is the goal in many of these things: bigger
Hmm.
shows, bigger conventions, bigger
Yeah.
audiences, etc. But bigger comes with costs. Also, it's not just better. Full
Hmm.
stop. Can you talk about some of the things that people may not realize are the other side of bigger, but you typically don't see it until you're bigger?
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, when we were smaller, I think a lot of the decisions were weighted way easier than what they are now. I think back then it's like, okay, we want to, like, I think bigger is better, but it just depends on what your definition of better is. Cause it's like more people means we need to, invest more into security and more into logistics. I mean, if we mess up on any type of programming, then that causes a large chain reaction. That means that any little mistake we potentially make means that on social media now there's a bigger reward
Hmm.
to that. You
Hmm.
got to factor all those different things in the same way that, it's a double-edged sword. In the same way that the community has gathered together to uplift us to be successful, they can also tear you down if you don't honor what they do and they acknowledge. I mean, I'm sure anyone that has a presence or deal with this knows that, right? But DreamCon was started in a time frame, still early social media where that was like people were still figuring it out. And I think now, y'all know, 2025, like we know the power of social media, and you just, as long as you just, keep it respectful and listen to your audience, that's a big thing. You gonna get more people, like I said, more security. You got to factor in now. You getting bigger partnership situations and conversations. Now it's like, hold on, we need some better legal. We need better this is this because now we it's a lot going on. And I think it's just all about just being prepared. And some of those people who came in earlier, who invested in earlier, who had skilled areas, get to learn alongside you. So I think we're very blessed and we're very happy to be getting bigger, but there is a big part of being able to adjust to all those things that come with
Yeah.
being bigger, especially in a small time frame. Like I said, when we went from the one year where we went from 6,000 to 20,000, man, it was like we didn't know what we was getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you've got content, conventions,
mhm,
partnerships, intellectual properties, a lot of moving pieces.
yeah.
Um, I imagine there's got to be like some core principles and things that you always evaluate opportunities against
Mhm,
when you're making decisions. Can you talk about how you
mhm.
make that decision making process happen?
I mean, it really depends. I think that for us, we definitely have a very strict guideline for our standards of what we want and who we want to associate with. Regardless, it's not always just about the money. If the money, money could be great, but if it's not a good fit, then we do feel that our attendees will be able to see that. And I think that's just around our brand. We're very, very down to earth. We're very, very like, hey, like what is natural to us and our platform. Um, and I think that, yeah, the conversations are definitely just kind of more so like weighing opportunities to keep us on the original goal. I think the original, like the good thing about DreamCon, what I love is because the event itself is called DreamCon. It's built off of dreams, and I think when you think about dreams, that is something that's relatable to everybody. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I don't watch anime. I'm not, there's no reason for me to go to DreamCon. And when you show up there and you're like, oh wait, there is anime, but there's gaming. Oh, well, they got music. Oh, they playing, all-star celebrity basketball game, football, all these different
Hmm.
things, and just
Hmm.
black excellence all in one space of people just being themselves. And I think that when we come to dealing with different people, we really make that notion pretty clear from the beginning. Like, hey, look, we would love to have you a part of this. But we kind of take the creative control on that and be like, hey, look, here's how we feel it will work for you. Here's what we're not gonna do. You know what I'm saying? You gotta really just kind of stick your foot down and be like,
Yeah.
hey, look, like this, because if you have a bad partnership, the brand ain't gonna get blamed. We are,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So we like, hey, it don't matter with the money because y'all can mess up the money in the future. So
Yeah.
y'all can
Uh,
mess it up in the future. We
yeah.
won't get blamed.
You know, you talk. I've heard you use the phrase like world building, like you're intentional on building, world building around what you have
Yeah,
going on, and
for sure.
not just in media but events also. And so,
Hmm.
with that approach, it can't just be about a 1, 2, 3, 4 day convention. How do
Hmm.
you how do you build something that's like 365 days a year? It's a living thing versus just like a conference.
Yeah, and it's crazy you bring that up because that's been like a really reoccurring discussion right now for us. Is like, okay, like we have this amazing product, right? It comes around once a year, but how do we make it to where people keep it on their mind a little bit longer throughout the year? Like, what are some other things we can do throughout the year to build towards the hype of it? And yes, the event is just getting bigger on the weekend, but what else can we do? And so I think the biggest thing right now when it comes to products is really focusing on a great storyline. Obviously, we always storyfy everything because of just our content. We're just all storytellers, right? So how do you apply a really great story to this event itself? Because everybody that's coming to the event are all here because they are very fans of these great anime stories, right? And so you can kind of create an experience for them, to make them feel like they're even more a part of the process leading up to it and afterwards. And I think that when people get more invested into the story of the product before and after, then that gives us as a company more opportunities to do things before and after as well to keep it on their mind throughout the year, whether that's like doing meetups, doing, little satellite events. Maybe we can take certain components of each category that's important to DreamCon and do it in different cities, right? Like, okay, maybe we can go in Atlanta and do something that's just sports. And then that ties into the main event. Maybe we set up a whole gaming circuit where, okay, online, all the aspiring esport gamers, we're gonna have y'all compete for 6 months,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the top 16 players get to get flown out to DreamCon, right? And so now we have different incentives going out throughout the year. Or maybe we branch out into separate IP. Maybe we start a charity foundation and we do different community things throughout the year that all still tie up to our main thing. So where it's like DreamCon would be the Super Bowl, right? You got the whole, in NFL, you got the league, they're having all the regular season,
Yeah, yeah.
then you get the playoffs, and then boom, Super Bowl. That's what I feel like we can create. DreamCon could be the anime, Black Nerd Super Bowl, and we can have regular season of other activities. So that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I wonder like what were the indicators that told you guys early on that a convention would work? Because I think about there are so
Mm,
many, social media influencers, people who may be funny, they may be beautiful, they may have some
mm,
sort of attraction online that
mhm.
they put out a product and they can't sell nothing, or they try
Yeah.
to show up somewhere and ain't nobody coming to see them. And so,
Mm,
what was it about the following that you built
mhm,
online that said, you know what, people will get a flight, they will get on the
mhm,
bus, they will get, a rental car, they will get
mhm,
a hotel room, stay on
mhm.
somebody's floor
Yeah.
to come see us? What was it about that?
I will say for the group, the collective itself, because just transparently before, while it was happening, I wasn't even part of the group yet, right? I was actually just a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I was a
Mm-hmm.
fan first. And my partner Mark, he's the one that had founded the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was a fan, and I was like, man, I'm at home. I'm thinking like, man, I wish I had some friends who could just get it together like them
Yeah.
because I feel like we could do some stuff, right? And so luckily, I was blessed to be in a situation where I ended up getting closer, and we ended up being able to work together and then eventually get to DreamCon. But even just using myself as an example, I was like, well, if I was willing to travel and do these things to get closer to some people who inspire me, what is to stop these other people around the world to potentially do that? And if you see where I'm going with this, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and then on top of that, right? The difference with RDC, I would say, is that we were making content around this black anime gaming subculture very early in when it was still like in its infancy, right? And so, being credited as one of the main people who really started to make black people and anime be popular. Not that they didn't like it, we publicized it. We were a driving force to make it be like, hey, look, like whenever the earlier viral videos were going on YouTube and they was hitting 20 million views and going in Japan, people in the comments would be like, "Oh wow, like,
Yeah.
I do like anime, but I didn't even know, like I didn't know people was talking about it like this. Like I didn't know there was other people like that, and we were like, yeah, and they're like, and they see that we're getting successful off it, so now they feel a little, a little more confident to talk about it online. Now you're starting to get these little communities on Facebook, make people starting groups and clubs and collections, all these different things, right? So then you see that it's almost like everybody was just waiting for somebody to break through. And once they broke through, they can look and say, all right, bet, cool, I can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool, right? Because now, even with this, we're getting popular off of that. We're getting acknowledgement from different celebrities. Now you starting to get rappers talk about it now. People, back then it's like people idolize these rappers and whatnot. And so even then they're like, oh, it's cool to talk about it. I'm gonna put some of that in my music. So now it's spreading to music. And then you go to sports, you see people in the end zone and they doing like Kamehameha move and different things. And
Yeah.
oh, snap, I look up to athletes too. So now everybody's getting in on it. It's getting more acceptable. And I say all that to say that the because everyone was holding this in for all their youth, middle school, high school, and college, right? The first person that was like, "Hey, all look, I understand how y'all was because we was there, and look where we're going right now. We about to create this live event. Y'all should pull up and meet other like-minded people out there because now it's probably hard to find it." And I think that that alone gave us the success to bring it because um, like I said, we it's called DreamCon, and the thing with the word dream is that dreams is something that is relatable across the board. There's no specific individual that it's something that's relatable for everybody to want to chase there. And so when you by coming to DreamCon, you feeling like you taking a step closer towards your dream, which is something that people will invest in buying a flight and getting a hotel. Or, if I'm at a job right now and I'm working my 9 to 5 and I'm really unhappy and I see some people that I look up to are doing some stuff I really wanted to do, then I might be willing to sleep on the floor in the hotel if I need
Yeah.
to, if it
Yes, right.
means that I can meet some people. So I think that's our foundation. It's the foundation of that. The success after we have each year, if they're getting bigger, it's getting more height, and it's becoming popular. I think that's the key to us. That makes us different. We're not just selling like some merch. I think merch is like, all right, cool. You buy the shirt, throw it
Yeah.
on the floor.
Yeah.
We're selling an experience and a dream.
So DreamCon isn't just about building one weekend of community events each year. It's about extending that ecosystem into new spaces and platforms. And this year,
Yes.
we're proud, at Blavity to partner
Hmm.
with, you guys on the Creator Summit at AFROTECH in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. And the first of its kind experience designed to empower Black digital entrepreneurs and creators. This is a one-day event happening at AFROTECH in Houston, bringing together TikTokers, YouTubers, podcasters, Twitch streamers, esports talent, and more. And so we're going to do workshops, panels, fireside chats. And the goal is to help creators turn influence into income, grow authentic communities, and build sustainable businesses in the creator economy. So talk about, with all that, how you and Blavity designed the
Hmm.
programming to be both visionary and
Hmm.
practical for the next wave of Black creators.
Yeah, I think that, with Morgan, the kind of what y'all got going on, obviously it's more centered around tech, but I think that tech in itself plays a heavily strong part in the success of a driving force for our community as well, right? Tech applies to everything at this point, right?
That's
But when
right.
it
That's
comes
right.
to being able to watch, people who develop the stream services for people to watch anime, or people developing the technology to play these games and do these things and work in these spaces, it's really the glue to everything for us. And so it just was a and then on top of the fact that you guys are doing it in this, same situation. Y'all was in Austin, we was in Austin, then
Yeah.
y'all moved to
Yeah.
Houston, then we had to move to Houston, and we're dealing with a demographic of people. It just made sense for us. So then from there, it's like, okay, well, this makes sense, right? How do we? We're not competing against each other. It's just like, hey, look, y'all got y'all's audience, and we have ours. How can we come
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
and amplify it as a whole, right? So I say all that to say that one of our strong suits for DreamCon as well. Obviously, we got past the categories of anime, gaming, sports, music, TV, film, but the core of our side is the creator space. We credit the success of DreamCon heavily on the creators because in the earlier days, we wasn't, when we were starting, we wasn't able to go get the Japanese voice actors or these other, the white voice actors of this. We just had to be like, hey, look, we
Yeah.
like anime,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
like gaming, we like all these things, and it's just us.
Yeah. Yeah.
If y'all fans of us, pull up. we reached out to our other creator friends who had audience as well. Hey, can y'all, can y'all pull up and we can do this and set up the program and just to to bring the people. So the foundation of DreamCon was built off of creators. That's the number one part on why it even started, right? To get it thing. So I say
Yeah,
all that to say that using that same energy when it comes to the creator space, right? Now, when we look at what Blavity is doing, and there's a large creator aspect to tech as well. There's a whole bunch of like it's I would credit to in all levels. I didn't see so many tech people who are in the creator space.
that's right.
And so for us, what we want to do is find a way on bringing our expertise in that creator space and complement the Blavity AFROTECH space as well. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear at this point. Like, we just want to find a way. How can we amplify Afrotech and provide the things that we've learned over all this time, in exchange for stuff in the technology that we want to learn for
That's
our
right.
event? And I think that's what makes this this partnership such an amazing thing, because this is really naturally integrated. It's not about money. It's not about all these things. It's a matter of just us recognizing each other and saying like, "Hey, y'all, like we both are in the same space,
That's right.
and have like, how can we make this make sense to everybody?"
For
So
sure.
that's
For
what I'm
sure.
excited about.
Yeah, and I love that you position this. I get the most pervasive question I get about Afrotech, when people are
Mhm.
considering going, they're like, well, I'm not in tech. And I'm like, you probably are in tech, but but
Yeah, you
just
just don't know
because
it.
you just don't know it, and you're like, you could be in healthcare, you're still utilizing technology to do what you do. You could be, a barber or beautician, you probably are still using technology to do what you do. And
Mhm,
so I love that you position that. And so I want to talk about Houston real quick because we have moved to
mhm,
Houston. We moved to Houston last year. We're there this year, and you guys
mhm,
moved to Houston also. And
mhm,
what is the difference in that? What difference did that make in the
mhm.
ability to grow and scale this in a way that mattered to the mission?
Like us moving to
Moving to
Houston
Houston,
specifically.
moving to Houston.
When I shout out to Houston, I'll say shout out to Houston because the energy, and I mean, you've seen
Yeah, I've seen it.
Afrotech in Austin and Houston as
Yeah,
well. Like for
yeah,
us, no fit. Austin is great too. Like,
yeah, yeah.
if Austin y'all watching it, y'all great too. I just think that obviously, the reason why we had to leave or reasons out of our control, right? With the changes in Austin and that, and so what we learned doing in Austin was great. But when we came to Houston, I feel like the energy was just a different level, right? That was more relatable. Houston's way more cultured, and that's just a fact. It's more cultured. It's just it fits well with our demographic of people there. And on top of that, Houston itself kind of even extended a hand out. They showed up, and even right now, as I'm going through this whole new year of planning, like I didn't have so many different relationships and connections and people just talking about DreamCon, like, like stars in their eyes, and just being like, wow, like I didn't even know that this was happening.
Yeah.
And it's really giving us an extra fire to want to make sure that this next upcoming event is as great as possible, because I think the Houston community aligns. Houston's one thing about our cities is very diverse as well, and I think that Houston is diverse and it aligns really well. And on top of all that, like there's just there's just more relatableness from that. I think that just makes it just work better, in my opinion. I think this last year, the difference, we were a little bit bigger,
A
but we
lot of
had
bit, a lot
city,
of bit bigger, a lot of
yeah,
bit.
yeah, a lot of bit bigger, right? Yeah, I like to downplay it, but we had city officials come out there.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't know if city officials would care about coming to an event like that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so they're out there and giving us certificates and stuff, and I was like, oh. And then I see them, and I'm like, oh, they some brothers like us. You feel
yeah,
me? So
yeah.
then it's even more of like, dang, like we can really just understand each other already off the bat. So that's why I'm excited about being here. And non-biasedly, I am from Houston, born and raised, right? So
Yeah.
so that was just an extra icing to the cake.
How are you thinking about how AI is or could impact conventions, and
Mhm.
content? So I think about two things: creating opportunities. How will AI create opportunities for you in live event space, and potentially some of the downsides to it?
That's a tough question because I just feel like with AI, there's some like I just feel like AI can just be applied to so many different areas. I would say that I could see the pros and cons depending on which area of it. Right now, I think for AI, like It can help definitely make things move quicker, right?
Hmm.
Help us get certain answers quicker, whether it's like using things like ChatGPT, like just the little things of learning that we had to like go extra lengths to learn and understand about it is definitely being adjusted to that direction to make it easier even for myself, right? And I think that, there is a kind of I think the scariness of it is the unknown, of what it can potentially be in the future. I don't know exactly how AI will necessarily affect the event space from an overall grand scheme of things in the future. I don't know if AI can potentially recreate an event, like DreamCon, maybe, who knows? But that's not really something that I feel like um, I can predict at this moment. I just think that there is, depending on what space, I know, like, with DreamCon, we deal with a lot of original artists, a lot of musicians, athletes. Like, there's a lot of different entertainment. And I think the how AI affects entertainment as a whole would probably, yes, directly affect DreamCon in the future, but I really don't know like in what way yet. And
Yeah,
I think that's just something that, just with time can tell. I don't think anyone really can know. All we have is really more so predictions. And I think yeah, we just gotta adjust and see how it goes,
that's fair.
honestly.
That's fair. What's a dream you're still chasing that people might not expect?
A dream that I'm chasing, so I would say, I mean, the number one thing for me is, one of the things I want to be is a producer, right? And I'm not talking about like just a music producer. I think I want to be a producer in entertainment. I think that DreamCon is a good stepping stone for me to gain and acquire tools to become that type of person in the long run. Like I said, I think for me, the most appealing aspect to that is the fact that I want to be the person who could potentially work on projects, fun projects, have people come to me with whatever dream or great ideas they have and say, hey, John, like, I really believe in this, man. Like,
Yeah,
do you believe in it too? What can you do? And then how can I come in and support that aspect? And I think with DreamCon, it gives me a good experience to do that because in a way, right? Like I always compare DreamCon like a movie. Like right now, if DreamCon was a movie, I'm pretty much the producer slash showrunner. You know what I'm saying?
hmm,
Like I'm over here, like I'm booking talent. Those are my actors. You feel me? And I'm getting my assistant director. That's some of our director level executives, right? We're creating the release date. We gotta like, all right, the movie drops on next summer. That's when the event starts. And then we have the marketing rollout leading up towards it, the marketing rollout leading towards the event. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of different things that compare to that. But for me, one of my things is becoming a producer, getting some more other projects under my belt, whether that's in film, music, television, all that. Like, I really believe that I can be that person. And also, just to with my partner Mark, his dream is to become, or he is, he's working on being a director and writer. Those are his main things. That's why he started the collective in the first place, because he created the group
yeah, yeah,
to give himself a stepping stone to get closer to his dream of being a writer director. And so my goal is to hopefully have DreamCon give me a stepping stone to become a producer, so then I can circle back and we can work together and be like, hey, look, here's what we created. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I didn't learn, I didn't teed up on the producer side. Maybe one day we can work on a project together outside of DreamTime. So that's my dream.
yeah. One last question. I think
Yeah, for sure.
the you talked earlier about how like you came into something that was already starting to pop. Like you weren't
Hmm.
originally one of those part of the
Hmm.
collective, but you were a fan and you found your
Yes.
way in partnership with these guys as part of the team. There's a
Hmm.
ton of people who might be fans of other creators, other
Hmm.
influencers, etc.,
Hmm.
who are like, what, I would love to be on that ride, and
Hmm.
they believe that they have some value to provide.
Hmm.
What was, how did it happen that there's this thing that's over here popping, and you like, man, I want to be a part of that. What was that?
Hmm.
What was the bridge to number one even getting them to pay
Hmm.
attention to you, and or you
Yeah.
how did you get a flag big enough to get them to pay attention?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's not a short answer, but I can give it as
Yeah,
quick
give
as
it
I
to it.
can, right? I think so yeah, like I was working as a leasing agent, right? At an apartment community. I was working, my 9 to 5. And I was just a fan watching videos, right? And so they're the first people who let me understand, as somebody who was a reserved nerd, right? That people were making content like this and going viral and getting love. And I was like, oh wow, okay. And if you really want to understand this space, there's like different levels to it. Because I think back then people had just a very specific archetype of person that they think people who watch anime are,
Mm-hmm.
just to be
Mm-hmm.
transparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with Mark, to me, he was a person where in high school, I would never have guessed that he was in anime. He was like the cool dude. He was in the middle. He was cool with the athletes, the the hoodlums, is right. You feel me? But he was also cool with the nerds too. He's like, y'all, like, hey, I'm in the middle. So he was just a
Yeah.
bright person that was able to bring everybody. And I think that that type of archetype for this type of space was, I didn't know that was a thing, right? And I think that was a big credit to where when he was making content in them earlier days, and we was making the hood videos, we was making the sports videos, we was making the music and doing the anime things, and him really, really loving the anime part, but having like a different archetype. It was very, it made him stand out more back then, to where now you getting both communities. Now you're getting us watching him, and you got the other side being like, oh, he's just funny. Like this video is just funny, right? So I say all to say that as me, when I was working my job and noticing that, it made me a fan. So then it inspired me. Dream was a very big part for him, so it inspired me to try and make my own content at the time. So at the time, I was like, man, he doing it, man. I really like. I'm sick of this. Let me just go ahead and try to see if I can do my own thing. So I'm gonna try to get my friends. Hey, y'all, like we
Yeah.
can make our own stuff too. It didn't play out. It's harder to get people to kind of buy in on a dream when they don't really see the full vision in the end. And I think that was something that put me down, because I didn't feel like I had people who were trying to push towards that as hard as I did. And so I say all that to say that's kind of how I started getting to the mindset of like knowing that there is something more for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just a follower. Sometimes they'd be working on new videos. Sometimes they'd be like, hey, y'all, we're looking for X amount of people because we're trying to make this new video. And sometimes, it'd be thousands of people responding. So I send my little email or my message, never really got a response, right? And then one time they're like, oh, one time they did respond and like, hey, can you send a picture?
Yeah.
I guess because they're trying to see what the person looks like potentially. So I sent my picture and they didn't respond. So I sent my picture, they responded to that, and then they responded. So then months passed by. I'm still trying to figure out my life. I'm saving up money. I'm already in my mind thinking like, yeah, let me just save up enough money so I can leave this job and figure out how to do it myself. Um, and situation happened with my sister. She's from Dallas. She's in PR, like a reporter, and they were doing like this segment essentially about Black creators. Um, and I was telling her that I follow these people. I'm fans of these people who make content, and so she's like, "Well, yeah, if you can find a way to get a hold of them, maybe we can bring them on the news for like a segment as well."
Yeah.
So that happened. So then I'm over here sending email. I'm like, "Hey, I sent another email, basically a proposal saying, hey, y'all, like I got this opportunity on the news and Dallas news. I'm real big fans of y'all. I think y'all be a good fit for this." And they ended up responding. So they responded like, "Yeah, we'll do it." And I was like, well, I just want to record some stuff ahead of time to kind of build a segment out there. So they were like, all right, fine, pull up. So I was in Houston and they were in Dallas. So that was a 4-hour drive. So I drove 4 hours to Dallas. I showed up to the house and I was like, hey, yo, like, like, what's up? They're like,
Yeah.
okay. And basically I was just kind of asking them questions about like their background, basically trying to build something up to get of enough stuff to pitch to my sisters
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pitch to the station to bring them on there. So I spent a whole day with them just learning about them. And it was just really cool to just see that they were just regular people just like me who just had a platform. You feel me? And although I already thought that, but sometimes people off
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
off different energy. So
A
that's
hundred
how we
percent.
got in the same space. Once I was in, once my foot was in the door, I was all right. You know what I'm saying?
I
I'm,
ain't
I'm
going
in there,
nowhere. I ain't
right?
leaving. I ain't leaving.
Yeah. So it was like I got my foot in the door. We started talking. Um, but I wasn't like my intention wasn't to do anything. I think what one thing is important that some people will just reach out to these people and just ask for everything. Sometimes you got to just earn your way in there. You can't just be like, hey, I'm the dreamer too. I should be in the group. It's more like just make yourself valuable. And when the time happens, it happens. You feel me? It's whatever God decides for you and your future. I didn't ask to be in the group. I never asked. I never was like, hey, can I be in the group? I never said, hey, can you put me in videos? I just waited for the opportunities when they reached out to. And
Mm-hmm.
I made sure that I was one of the first people to respond each time. And eventually, you feel me, as we started to become associates, that I was the one that recognized. I was like, man, y'all making these hit anime videos. Like, I feel like y'all should go to some of these other events around Texas to be talent. I was the one that came up with that idea, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, I mean, sure, if you can. So then they basically gave me the green to see if I could do it. And this is, I'm not a group yet. I'm just a associate.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got it. I got it. So when I'm at work during my break, I'm over here putting together templates. I'm like, hey, I basically was telling all these businesses that I was their manager. I was like, hey, I'm the management group for this group called RDC. They had these hit videos. They make stuff. I think that they be, I think y'all's talent list is great, but it's not too diverse. I think that you guys should have some people like this here. And so I was sending like a whole bunch of emails, right?
Hmm.
I sent all those emails. Only two responded out of those things, right? So the two that did respond, I was like, all right, bet I'm gonna work with it. So then whenever I got the two that responded, I hit them up. I'm like, hey y'all, I got y'all books. I got a gig for y'all. You feel me? Like I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I got y'all booked out. And then all right, bet. So we went to these different events. We went to the first event. The first event we went to, we did a panel.
Hmm.
Never did a panel before. We're like, all right, let's just see. So we did the panel. Full room was booked up, like fans were all in the room, and we were like, wow, like he was like, wow, I didn't know that people was gonna show up in person for us at a panel. And I was like, I mean, you should have, because
Yeah. Yeah.
y'all doing something crazy. So that was episode one. So we did that, and they're like, okay, that's cool. Like, appreciate you, Don. Like, thank you for setting this all up. I like, yeah, I got you, man. Like, I'm gonna keep looking for some more gigs. You feel me? Like, whatever I
Right.
was calling
Right.
at the time while I'm going back home to my job and working, right? So then the second place we went to was in Houston, ironically, and we went to that one. But that one, they didn't really give us any kind of social promo. They basically were just like, oh yeah, y'all can show up and just let people know you're here. So you know what I'm saying? And we were just walking around. And as we were walking around the building, people was just kind of like coming up to us, coming up to us, coming up to us. And it was crazy the amount of people who were just in our faces.
Yeah.
And I think that it started to click a little bit, right? And we're like, dang, I didn't know people would show us love. So then months passed, right? I'm doing my thing, and then one day Mark was like, "Man, like I know you kind of been helping us with getting to these different events, but like, what if we just started our own event?" And I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "Yeah, y'all should." He's like, "Yeah, but like, can you help? He's like, can you help us do it, right? Because like I don't really know nothing about that." In my mind, I'm like, me either. I had never ran a convention, but what I did know is that I was tired of doing what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
feel me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my answer right then was, I got it. I'm gonna figure it out. So we hung up the phone call. I went on Google. I said, how do you start a convention? And the rest was history from there. I was just learning. I started to go, I started up a GoFundMe. I said, hey, look, y'all, look, we've been trying to go to all these different events. They kind of been turning us away. You feel me? Like people not really seeing the vision for it. So we decided we just gonna start our own thing. So I'm creating this GoFundMe to raise some money. Just I ain't trying to get too much money. I want to raise enough money so we can start a website. We can get a graphic designer and make a logo, just to make something tangible for y'all to
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
digest. So that way it goes from just talking to happening. So I got about like 3,000.
Yep.
I closed the GoFundMe. I got the logo stuff going. I got the website going, and then we started social media. And then from there, Mark was like, "Oh, you got it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'm gonna talk about it on the YouTube channel." So he's like, "Hey, y'all, we started our own convention. This is this." And then from there, the dynamic was Mark was like, "All right, look, I'm gonna focus on making sure the group stays big and gets bigger and bigger, and making viral videos. I don't really care too much about the organization of the event. I just want it to be good." I
Yeah.
said, "All right,
Yeah.
bet. I don't really care too much about doing the videos. I'm gonna figure out how to do this convention stuff." And so that was the dynamic at first. It was RDC the group. I'm working on building an event. And then eventually it's like, oh, you might as well do a little bit with us. So I was, okay, I'll do with y'all. So we can kind of have, because I was kind of living in my car at the time. And he's like, well, y'all can just stay with us and we can just figure this out. And then from there, as you start to live in the house, now they're making videos and they're like, hey, John, can you come help us up this video? You might as well get in
Hmm.
here. And I
Hmm.
was like, all right, cool. And then from there, he's like, hey, man, like, I really gonna have to start paying you because you helped for this and it's taking a lot of time. And then from there, that's when I became a member of the group unintentionally,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I didn't ask to be in the group. He was like, hey man, you've been helping us. You one of the seven. The fans started recognizing me as as a seventh person. And then so now I'm in the group and I'm doing this. And I say all that to say is that's how it got to the point it was. And then boom, we did the first event. It was 800 people. We thought it was about to be 10,000. We're like, dang, we failed. I think it broke even, and somebody was like, "Nah, breaking even is not failing. Breaking
That's a
even means
fact.
you can do year two."
That's a
That was
fact.
something I knew. I said, "Oh, you're right. We can do year two," and that's how it started. That's how I got in the position. So I really got in this position by, I won't say accident, but I got in here by just the grace of God, I feel like.
Man, I'm so glad I asked that question. That was a remarkable story. That was
Yeah, that's as
super
quick as I could
inspiring.
get to. I just want everybody to know in order how it happened. I never asked. Is sometimes it's just about just being in the right position at the right time.
And you came with value. You didn't come just asking for something. You came with value.
That's the one thing. I didn't ask for nothing, and I took a chance on myself. I quit my job and I lived in the car for a little while because I really believed in what was happening. And yeah, man, I think that I use myself as proof of motivation that, like, is really just crazy. Just think, even just talk about it now, it really makes me not emotional, but it makes me really understand the value and just believing in yourself. And it really makes me want to fight harder for the aspect of what we call dream con. Like, I took a chance and I seen some dudes doing some stuff that I always wish I could do with my friends, and they accepted me into that easily. And we turned that energy into creating this space for other people who potentially might be in that same situation that I was in 8 years ago. Um, and I think because we are bringing those type of people around is why we've been successful, because we, our product that we're selling is simply chasing your dream. In the grand scheme of things, like, people are like, "Oh, I don't watch anime." I'm like, no, like, this is a dream con. Um, so yeah, that's that into my
I love it.
my monologue. You
I
feel me?
love it. I love it. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you for the Blavity Creator Summit in partnership
Yeah,
with DreamCon, happening Friday, October 31st at AFROTECH in H10.
excited.
I'll see you soon, Jonathan Newton. Thank you so much for joining me.